75 now, and I can't remember anybody except the Queen being.
Queen Camilla entered the stand in a courtroom full of reporters and a deafening hush. The world held its breath, her voice broke, her hands shook, and then she said the words that no one expected. "I never wanted this crown. He was all I ever desired." There were gasps. As Camilla told King Charles things that broke down royal boundaries, he wiped away tears. She told him about hidden letters that made her family feel ashamed, and one confession that altered everything. "I lied to protect him, but I lost myself." What truth has she finally told? And is this the time when the monarchy starts to break down? The day that everything changed. It wasn't Westminster Abbey or Buckingham Palace, but on this day, a little courtroom in London became the scene of the most spectacular royal event in decades. No cameras were allowed. Queen Camilla stood behind the polished oak witness stand, shivering and crying, ready to tell the world what no one saw coming. Reporters took notes in silence. An eyewitness said she looked like she hadn't slept in days. At that moment, she wasn't a queen. She was just a woman on the edge. Camilla's lawyers tried to stop her from testifying, saying that royal privilege should keep her from having to do so, but the court disagreed. This wasn't just a normal civil case. When the court called her name, Camilla, she gently stood up, came to the stand, and faced King Charles straight in the eye. It was a legal fight over private royal correspondence, legacy rights, and personal inheritance that went back more than 30 years. He didn't turn away. Then came the words that changed everything. "I never wanted this crown. All I ever wanted was him." That one line made everyone in the courtroom quiet. It wasn't planned, it wasn't expected, but it was real. Camilla's voice broke as she admitted to burying papers that had to do with Princess Diana's early preparations for an inheritance and intimate conversations between her and Charles before they got married. The defense sought to stop her, but the judge let her keep on. What she said next hit much more. "I lied to rescue him, but I lost myself." This wasn't just a queen admitting to faults. It was a woman breaking down after years of stress, remorse, and secrets. Everyone in the royal family, whether they were in court or behind palace walls, knew that nothing would ever be the same again. That moment broke the royal family's carefully crafted image of being in charge. But the true shock came from what Camilla was talking about. The letters, which were personal, private, and very well protected. These weren't just notes. They were the last strands that held a secret together. Charles didn't want anyone to see the private letters that started the trial. There were dozens of sealed envelopes hidden away in the Windsor archives. Most had been left behind. Some of them were never meant to be opened, but one group that was hidden within a leather-bound box became the center of a royal court battle when a palace employee disclosed their contents to a journalist. That journalist gave it to attorneys, which is how a royal cover-up turned into a legal issue. There were handwritten comments from Charles to Camilla in the letters. They were written in the 1980s when he was still married to Princess Diana. Some were based on feelings, while others were based on plans. One lyric said, "I wish things were simpler, but I can't stop loving you." But it wasn't only about love. Some letters talked about Diana personally, her mental health, her actions, and even her anxieties that she would go public. Others talked about contingency plans that sounded a lot like succession strategies. One lawyer said that these letters from Camilla to private consultants about whether or not to destroy specific papers were far more disturbing than merely love letters. He suggested these were planned efforts to change history and maybe even wipe parts of it. Camilla told the court that she kept such letters secret to preserve the monarchy. She said it was never about lying, but about time. People weren't ready. She believed Charles wasn't ready, but legal experts swiftly disagreed, hiding papers in a critical inheritance issue that was still going on. Letters and maybe illegal. Charles couldn't dispute what the letters stated, even if they were written in private. They were about very prominent lives, and what they said or hinted at might have an effect on the monarchy's image, Diana's legacy, and the line of succession. The court heard people confess. The headlines in the press were tremendous, but the main question was still, why did she lie? What was Camilla actually attempting to keep safe? Was it Charles? Was it her fault? Or was it something even deeper? The next section of her testimony made everyone, notably the king, cry. Camilla's heartfelt confession. Camilla was always calm, even when the media called her the bad guy during the Diana years. She never lost her cool, but everything changed the minute she told the truth. I lied to protect him, but I lost myself in the process. She uttered it gently, almost in a whisper, but everyone heard it, including King Charles. Camilla said that for years she had to deal with secrets that weren't hers. By yourself. She claimed there were times when I couldn't sleep because I knew these messages would kill him if they ever got out. At first, she stated she was attempting to keep Charles safe, but as time went on, it became about something else. To safeguard the institution, I began to lie. She told the truth and then I lied to save myself. Her tears weren't fake. Even her lawyer was shocked by how honest she was. She said she felt tormented by Diana's spirit, not just because she took her position, but also because she had never had the guts to meet her in person. I never said I was sorry, and I should have, Camilla added through tears. The court gave her a short pause in the hearing, but Camilla declined. Let me finish. She wouldn't stop, and then she said something that made Charles cry too. I know I hurt her. I know how much I cost you. People who saw it say that Charles mumbled something back. It sounded like, I'm sorry too. That moment broke through the royal rules. This time the crown didn't matter. There were just two people, and they were surrounded by a history of pain and choices they could never take back. The courtroom had heard enough, but for the royal family, the implications were only beginning. Camilla's statements made many cry, but they also opened doors to issues the palace never wanted to face. What else was kept secret? Who else was involved? And how would Prince William feel when he heard everything? Prince William's quiet response. Prince William didn't say a word in public following the trial disclosures, but he didn't have to. His silence said it all. Palace insiders say that William got the full transcripts of Camilla's testimony just a few hours after it ended. When he read them, he reportedly closed the folder, stood up, and left the room without saying a word. His aide said he looked like he had been punched in the gut. This wasn't only about legal papers or old confessions for William. It was also about trust and the fact that his mother, Camilla, had always had a hard time trusting him. They were polite in public, but William had never really forgiven her for marrying his father, for the years of covert manipulation behind palace walls, or for trying to change the story. One royal expert said that the remark in Camilla's confession that hurt the most was the one that hurt the most. I knew Diana would make it, but I did it anyway. Some sources suggest that William read that line over and over again. That wasn't simply a personal betrayal, it was a knife in the heart of everything he had worked so hard to safeguard for so long. A family friend close to William said that he has always believed in duty and the crown. But when the truth makes your duty look like a lie, it shakes everything. Now, as the future King William faces a terrifying choice, ignore it for the sake of stability or confront it and risk blowing the whole system open. William is in silent turmoil and Camilla is shattered on the stand. All eyes turned to King Charles, who did something that surprised even his closest advisors. Instead of defending the crown, he defended something much more personal. His love. But what will it cost? And King Charles stands up for Camilla behind the palace walls. The king we saw at the coronation was not King Charles. He was a man who was absolutely torn. Charles is said to have met with key advisors privately the day after Camilla's court appearance. His voice, which was usually calm, broke as he defended his wife. She didn't do anything to trick anyone. She did it because she was worried about me and us. Charles said he knew about the letters, though not all of them. He also knew that Camilla had thought about getting rid of some of them, but he never asked her to. He stated she took those decisions on her own and now she's dealing with everything. But many who know her say there was more. Charles might not have told her to hide the letters, but he didn't stop her from doing it. His words shocked everyone in the room. It's me who should be on trial. The senior staff members looked at each other. Was the king acknowledging he was wrong or trying to protect his queen? Either way, it was a rare time when the royal family showed weakness. There was a crack in the crown that couldn't be fixed. But the timing couldn't have been worse. Harry's scathing memoir and Meghan's interviews had already shaken public support for the monarchy, and now this judicial confession threatened to reopen old scars. One assistant is said to have told Charles, if you stand by her now, you might lose the country. Charles didn't move. I lost Diana already, I won't lose her either. That moment was a turning point. Charles had picked Camilla again, but this time the stakes were higher, and the results were worse. But even as Charles swore his loyalty, the fissures in the palace walls became bigger. This was because many people thought that Camilla's statement in court stopped just short of revealing one important truth. There was still a question that no one had the guts to ask out loud until now. The part that is missing Camilla's statement in court was long and agonizing, but even royal watchers thought something was off. There was one thing she never talked about, and it was the same thing that has haunted royal gossip columns for decades: a possible secret child. There have always been whispers about this, but what stunned people was that Camilla never even mentioned it once, even though she was being honest. Insiders believe the court had decided to confine testimony to documents and inheritance, but people who were watching couldn't overlook the gap. A biographer of the royal family hinted at it by saying that there is still more left to say. You can feel it, and the silence around it is so loud. Rumors inside the palace say that Camilla may have been pregnant in the early 1980s, but there is no official record of it. Some people say that the child was adopted in another country. Some people think he was raised under a different name, maybe even knowing who his real parents were. One palace archivist even said that there was a locked file in the royal vault that said, May 1981, private. Charles has never spoken anything in public. Camilla says she doesn't know anything. But now that letters have come to light and trust is breaking down, the royal family is under more pressure to come clean. Royal experts have said that Camilla's remarks, "I lied to protect him," could mean more than just letters. May she have been talking about a secret family member whose identity, if disclosed, may change the order of succession to the throne? And, if that's true, what does that mean for William, Harry, and the future of the monarchy? The courtroom may be closed, but the questions are just beginning. The royal family is at a crossroads with William's anger, Charles's loyalty, and Camilla's unraveling confession. The next person to speak isn't a royal at all, and what they reveal might just blow the story wide open. The staff who knew too much. Just days after the courtroom drama, another shocking news story came out. This time, not from the royals, but from behind the scenes. Some longtime palace employees who are now retired or have been moved to other jobs started giving the press disturbing information. These weren't tabloids looking for gossip. These were folks who had worked for 3 kings and knew every part of the palace. A former footman told a Sunday paper that we were advised not to ask questions, but the stress was too much, especially in the early 1990s. Another person who worked in the Royal Archive reviews showed that some files were often sealed away, even from senior historians. The term family preservation order was an internal designation intended to keep certain records secret forever. One former secretary even says she saw letters that talked about a non-official dependent, which is even more surprising. She was informed it was about a staff member's child, but years later, she thinks it wasn't true. I believe I was being lied to, she said. I now think it was something else. With Camilla's court confession now public, these former aides feel free to talk, but they aren't all sharing the same tale. Some people justify Camilla by stating she was stuck between a harsh press and a frigid institution. Some say she used her quiet power to erase the past. No matter what, it's evident that the palace can't hold this in anymore. Whispers are turning into pronouncements, statements are now making the front page. But if you think it's bad that palace staff are leaking secrets, wait until you hear what happened next. Just when everyone thought the storm might settle down, someone from Camilla's own family stepped into the spotlight with words that shocked even the king himself, and what they said affected every royal. Camilla's sister speaks up. Annabelle Elliott, Camilla's younger sister and lifelong friend, has always kept a low profile, but this time, she couldn't stay quiet. She apparently talked to a trustworthy journalist over dinner in an unusual and unexpected occasion, not knowing that her words would be published. What she said raised eyebrows all throughout the country. Camilla has felt guilty for a long time, but that's not the whole story. People said that Annabelle said there are things that Charles doesn't know. Right away, royal analysts started to figure out what those words meant. A friend of Annabelle's says that Camilla did confess, but not everything. Was she talking about the reported child or other letters that were worse than the ones produced in court? There are things she buried so deep that she can't even deal with them anymore. Later, Annabelle put out a carefully worded statement claiming that her statements were taken out of context, but the harm was done. It was too large to overlook that Camilla still has secrets, even from Charles. More crucially, It verified fears that the testimony in court may not have been completely true. People listen when the Queen's own sister says she's hiding something, and a former royal aide made it clear that's not noise. That's a warning for Charles. The treachery was worse than before. He had publicly defended her. He had fallen in front of everyone, but if Annabelle didn't believe her, then what was real? But the media went crazy about what Annabelle said. Prince Harry was the only one who didn't say anything. But everything changed when a mysterious Instagram post hinted at a fact he'd been keeping to himself for years. Once it was deciphered, millions were left wondering if Harry was trying to tell us everything without saying a word. He didn't write it down. He never said it in an interview. He quietly tweeted a picture of a single candle burning next to a framed image of Princess Diana. There was no title or tags, only a timestamp, 3:47 a.m. But fans and royal watchers knew what it meant at the time. The news of Diana's deadly vehicle crash in Paris came in at 3:47 a.m. It wasn't just a coincidence. This was a sign. Everyone, including royal insiders, says that Harry did it to remind the world that some spirits never rest. A friend of Harry's in the US told a news source that he saw Camilla's testimony. He saw everything and is angry, not because she sobbed, but because she didn't give the complete truth. Harry thinks that some portions of the story, notably those from the 1980s, have been purposefully hidden. He also thinks that Camilla has always played a bigger role behind the scenes than she lets on. His silent protest, the candle, the photo, and the time weren't supposed to be loud. It was supposed to be apparent. Harry wants justice for Diana, not for himself or for Meghan. This is the scary part. That same day, a royal photographer saw a sealed envelope that had been sent to Clarence's house from California. It had Harry's writing on it. What was inside? No one knows for sure, but one person who knows claim he doesn't want revenge. He wants to know the truth. The royal family is going to have to deal with a lot of things, from tears in court to quiet warnings. Camilla has lost her mind. Charles is stuck. And now Harry is in the game. But the biggest upheaval is still to come. The monarchy has to choose between protecting the past and revealing it. And what happens next could change everything. As Camilla's confession in court spread throughout the world, King Charles reportedly began to break down under the emotional strain. People who work at the palace said that he spent hours alone in his own study at Sandringham, with papers all over the desk and the Queen's testimony playing over and over in the background. At that point, he spoke something in a low voice that no one expected to hear. I can't protect you any longer. From the day their relationship was made public, Charles had always been Camilla's toughest defender. He remained by her even when it meant losing his wife, his fame, and his family's confidence. But it seemed like the tide had turned now. The lady he fought the world to love was the reason his crown and legacy were about to fall apart. One royal aide said that the event broke the spirit. Charles had been through scandals, grief, and rejection, and now he was watching the entire foundation of his reign fall apart because of secrets he didn't completely understand. The aide said he feels blindsided, not by the court, but by her, by what she chose to keep from him. Camilla reportedly asked for solitude, but Charles, for the first time, opted to be silent, with no statements, no royal images, and just absence. And as the days went by without any outward display of solidarity, the rumors got louder. Was the king really thinking about his queen again? Or was he just tired of being sad? Charles went into quiet grief, and the staff at the palace started to get ready for something more real. A change in etiquette that hadn't happened in generations. What would happen to Camilla's position, her job, and her future if she could no longer stand next to the king in full public trust? The clock was ticking down. Queen Camilla fought hard and claw for years to prove she was worthy of the crown, but after the courtroom fallout, whispers began to spread inside the palace that her position may no longer be tenable. This time it wasn't just tabloid talk. People who worked closely with her and trusted her were talking about the unthinkable, a possible demotion in her royal status. Reports say that senior members of the Privy Council, key legal advisors, and Charles himself had a private meeting to talk about the legal and constitutional effects of changing Camilla's title from Queen Consort back to Princess Consort, a role that was originally planned for her years ago. A source informed the Telegraph that the word reassessment was used more than once. That's never just a thing. This wasn't about punishing someone, it was about staying alive. The monarchy had already suffered a lot of hits. Andrew's troubles, Harry and Meghan's departure, and now Camilla's breakdown in court may have made people even less trustful of the whole thing. Something had to change, and it looked like the crown was going to take Camilla's place as the first step. There were even reports that her workers were told. There were reviews of her public appearances. She had events coming up, and her official picture commission had been put on hold indefinitely. A source inside the palace palace said it clearly. She can still wear the crown, but it doesn't fit anymore. The public got their say, and what they wanted startled even royal historians. Letters flooded in, and the palace quietly began to end Camilla's reign. People started to protest on the internet, hashtags became popular all around the world, and the main message from people was that it was time to respect Diana's memory in the right way. No one saw what occurred next coming. People were angry about Diana. If the courtroom broke Camilla's shield, the public response damaged it even further within 48 hours of her testimony airing. Millions of royal watchers went to social media and royal news sites to seek justice for Diana. The movement was loud, intense, and never-ending. She lied to protect her in one tweet that was retweeted over 400,000 times. Message: Diana died because of it. It wasn't simply the letters that were hidden or the tears in court. It was about what the world had lost. People had long called Princess Diana the people's princess. But now that Camilla had admitted to hiding information that may have changed how people saw her, many thought Diana's suffering had been ignored again. Petitions began to gain traction, asking the monarchy to honor Diana posthumously by restoring her legacy, not through titles or crown jewels, but by making sure she would never again be left out of royal stories. A well-known royal columnist said, "History is rewriting itself, and this time Diana's voice won't be ignored." Some staff members inside the palace even apparently backed the initiative, which is shocking. A former press officer who worked with Diana in the 1990s stated, "She was one of us. She never pretended to be perfect, but she was honest, and we lost her too soon." It was another terrible blow for Camilla, not just from her detractors, but also from the ones she thought would one day forgive her. And just when it looked like Camilla couldn't go much lower, Charles made a choice that stopped everything in its tracks. It would transform her public and private life forever. Because for the first time in 17 years of marriage, he asked her to step aside from the private separation. Several insiders within the palace say that Charles and Camilla now live in different places. The palace says it's because of schedule needs, but insiders say it's a lot colder truth. They've decided to a private split, which is not official, but is clear. And the rationale isn't just personal, it's also strategic. After the court controversy, Charles is said to have told Camilla at a private supper, "I still love you, but I need to lead without distraction." Even though they were said softly, they were heavier than any royal order for Charles. The court case wasn't simply embarrassing. It was a wake-up call for him to think like a king, not a husband. Camilla now spends much of her time at Ray Mill House, her own estate in Wiltshire. People who work at Clarence House report that her office has slowed down a lot, and even her security detail has changed. At the same time, Charles is spending more time with Prince William, Princess Catherine, and the grandchildren. It's apparent what the message is. The monarchy is moving toward the future. A palace spokesperson says there is no official split and that everything is still going on as usual. But one insider clearly disagreed, claiming that even if they might still be married, they were emotionally on other planets. Camilla is hurting more than any headline right now because this time, critics and courtiers are not pushing her aside. The man she fought the world to be with is pushing her away. So here we are, secrets exposed, tears poured, reputations ruined, and a queen is suddenly all alone. But what happens next? Charles is either making a move to safeguard the crown or rewrite it. Will Camilla come back into the spotlight? Or will she quietly fade into history? One thing is for sure. This isn't simply a controversy, it's a royal reckoning. Stay tuned. The Queen's testimony is ended, but things are only starting to happen behind the palace gates. People are breaking apart, power is changing hands, and history is changing right in front of our eyes. Will King Charles stand by the lady he once risked everything for, or is this judicial confession the end of their time together? The monarchy is at a crossroads right now, and with every secret that is uttered, the crown gets heavier. This wasn't simply a royal scandal, it was a reckoning that might leave Queen Camilla out in the cold for good. Stay tuned, the royal storm has just begun.